Hare Krishna and welcome again to lectures from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Today we are going to start with chapter 6, which is entitled The Glories of Sri Advaita Acharya, and I hope to finish it today, but we will see. It has many beautiful verses explaining who Advaita Acharya actually is as a potency of the Supreme Lord, and also how to be an incarnation, actually to be an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also means that this kind of personalities, they want to be servants of the Lord, and we will see in which way. But before we start, we're going to sing prayers for auspiciousness. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda. So to start with text 1, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharya, whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says how he already explained the glories of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, and now he wants to explain to us the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. He says, Lord Advaita Acharya is incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Because he is not different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya, which actually means the one who teaches by example. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. His glory is beyond the conception of ordinary living beings. Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes, and Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation. So when I was reading these verses, which are actually explaining the position of Advaita Acharya, what I found interesting is that before, when we were talking about the glories of Lord Nityananda and when we were talking about the glories of Lord Balaram, we were also mentioning how because of Lord Balarama, the whole spiritual world is sustained, that he is the second expansion of Lord Krishna, and all the other expansions of Chaturvyuha and the expansions which the Purusha expansions which create the material world are all coming from him. But here we also see that Mahavishnu is an incarnation, actually that Advaita Acharya is incarnation, direct incarnation of Mahavishnu. So in this way we can see how all of them, they come from the Supreme Lord, but they all have different potencies. So Lord Nityananda, as Lord Balaram, has this potency in which he can expand into basically everything, and by this serve the Lord, while Advaita Acharya, he can expand in the potency of Mahavishnu, and then do the creation of the material world, and in this way serve the Supreme Lord. So this is the difference between them. Even though they are both considered to be incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their functions are a little bit different, and the scope is also different. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains how in the form of Mahavishnu, that Purusha creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes. By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms in which he enters each and every universe. So not only is he representative or incarnation of the Mahavishnu, he is also considered to be Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, who enters into each and every universe. So this is like his power, his potency. So Sri Advaita Acharya is a plenary part of that Purusha, and so is not different from him. Indeed, Sri Advaita Acharya is not separate, but is another form of that Purusha. He, Advaita Acharya, helps in the pastimes of the Purusha, with whose material energy and by whose will he creates innumerable universes. Being a reservoir of all auspicious attributes, Sri Advaita Acharya is all auspicious for the world. His characteristics, activities, and name are always auspicious. So these are his glories, that he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. He has this power of creation by which he serves the Lord. And everything about him is auspicious, even when he comes here into this world to propagate the Yuga Dharma of this age, which is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So, to emphasize who actually Advaita Acharya is, as the incarnation of Mahavishnu, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami continues to explain his glories. So he says that Mahavishnu creates the entire material world with millions of his parts, energies, and incarnations. Just as the external energy consists of two parts, the efficient cause, nimitta, and the material cause, upadana, Maya being the efficient cause and pradhana the material cause, so Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes two forms to create the material world with the efficient and material causes. Now, this is a philosophical aspect and explanation of how the material universes are created, and basically is just an explanation what is the function of the Mahavishnu in this creation, how the Lord uses Mahavishnu in the creation. And if you want to know more about this, these texts from 14 to 15 of chapter 6 in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very lengthy purport of Srila Prabhupada on like 10 pages of explanation in which way the material world is created. But I'm not going to go into that because it's just philosophy of the creation and not so much important for the topic that we are going to discuss today. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami just explains a little bit further in the next verses that Lord Vishnu himself is the efficient nimitta cause of the material world, and Narayana in the form of Sri Advaita is the material cause, upadana. Lord Vishnu in his efficient aspect glances over the material energy, and Sri Advaita as the material cause creates the material world. Although the Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the world never arises from that matter. So basically life comes from life, only matter can be produced from the spirit. That's the whole conclusion of the Shastras, and it's always confirmed in all the verses that talk about creation, because it is confirmed here that the creation takes place when the Lord glances over it. So the spiritual potency gives life to matter. And it is explained further how the Lord infuses the material ingredients with his own creative potency. Then by the power of the Lord, creation takes place. In the form of Advaita, he infuses the material ingredients with creative energy. Therefore, Advaita is the original cause of creation. Sri Advaita Acharya is the creator of millions and millions of universes, and by his expansions as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he maintains each and every universe. Sri Advaita is the principal limb, Anga, of Narayana. Srimad Bhagavatam speaks of limb, Anga, as a plenary portion, Amsha, of the Lord. O Lord of the Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not therefore my father, Narayana? Narayana refers to one whose abode is in the water, born from Nara, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and that Narayana is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental, they are absolute and are not creations of Maya. This verse describes that the limbs and plenary portions of the Lord are all spiritual. They have no relationship with the material energy. And this is emphasized here again, so that it can be concluded again that the creation comes from spiritual potency and not that matter is the one that creates life. Matter is inert, and it's just one of the energies of the Lord. And what makes the matter move is the potency of the Lord, which is purely spiritual. So, why has Sri Advaita been called a limb and not a part? The reason is that limb implies greater intimacy. Sri Advaita, who is the reservoir of virtues, is the main limb of Mahavishnu. His full name is Advaita, for he is identical in all respects with that Lord. As he had formerly created all the universes, now he descended to introduce the path of Bhakti. So even though he's so great that he causes the creation of the material world, and actually each and every universe, he also descends to this world to introduce the path of Bhakti. So he's also considered in a way a cause of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I like when Kandamakana Swami explains prayers of Advaita Acharya to the Lord, that the Lord comes. He always says that the Supreme Lord, worship the Supreme Lord for the Supreme Lord to descend. So this is like a paradox, but it's only possible, of course, if we have a transcendental vision of everything. So it's quite beautiful because Krishna is the cause of all causes, as Srimad Bhagavatam says. He is the source of all the incarnations. But all his incarnations, even though they are considered to be plenary portions or parts of those plenary portions, and they have the same sometimes function as the Supreme Lord, and they are considered to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they don't consider themselves actually as such. They see themselves more as the servant of the primeval Lord, which is Krishna. So they consider themselves to be devotees, and therefore they always try to serve in their best capacity. And they love to consider themselves devotees or enter into the functions of devotees. And how this is so will be explained in these verses in this chapter. How the Tattva potencies, the Vishnu Tattva potencies, who are expansions of the Lord, who is the source of everything, which is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, how all of them actually consider themselves the servant of the Lord. So to be the servant of the Lord is considered to be an exalted position, and therefore even the Supreme Personality of Godhead takes it. And even Krishna himself wants to taste what it is like to taste his sweetness, and to taste the ecstasy that comes from serving him. And because he wants to taste it, he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this way he confirms the exalted position of the servant of the Lord. So to continue further with the verses. He delivered, so Advaita Acharya, he delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Purport of Srila Prabhupada. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu, for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and throughout all his activities, he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they also belonged to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists, and self-worshippers than they had already become under the spell of this age. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita Acharya specially intended to teach the conditioned souls about devotional service. The word Acharya means a teacher. The special function of such a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. The real qualification of an Acharya is that he presents himself as the servant of the Supreme. Such a bona fide Acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an Acharya to defy such impostors posing as God before the innocent public. So even when God comes to this world to teach by example of how to reach the stage of transcendence, devotional service, or to say love of God, he never says that he's God. But still there are some others who are not God, but who think that they are teachers of the path of bhakti, and they claim that they are God. So by this we can see what is the right behavior of someone and what is the wrong behavior of someone. And God is the one who comes first as a teacher. He is the one who is the giver of the religious principles. He is the one who teaches the world. He gives the Vedas. Vedas are considered to be the breath of Vishnu. So from him comes the knowledge. From him come the scriptures, and he explains everything, and in the end he teaches by example. So yesterday we had a Bhagavad Gita class where we were discussing chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, which talks about karma yoga, so how to act in Krishna consciousness, how to perform any activity that can be given to us in this world that we want to perform, but how to perform it for the pleasure of the Lord. And there Krishna says that everyone has to perform some kind of the activity, because to be active is actually a quality of the soul. So it is totally natural for the soul to be active. And Srila Prabhupada explains how activity does not come from our conditional nature. It comes from our spiritual nature, because when we serve the Lord in the spiritual world, we also perform certain activities by which we please Him. So that's what Krishna explains, but he also says that when we perform our activities in this material world, we should do it without expectation of any result, only for the pleasure of the Lord. It is our duty to perform certain prescribed activities according to the position in which we were born in. And then he says this is necessary because if we act in a wrong way, we give a wrong example, and therefore we mislead people in this world. So he also gives an example of himself, how he himself also has to act according to the certain principles, and he has to perform his duty, so he can teach others by his example how to properly act in this world, how to purify themselves, and how to reach the highest goal, which is love for God. So that's why this principle of Acharya, teaching by example, is very important, and it comes actually from the Lord himself. And he also again shows this principle when he comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Lord Krishna, we already talked about it when we were talking about why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually descended into this material world. And we talked about and explained how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Lord Krishna, and how the whole pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very much connected to the pastimes of Krishna, which happened 5,000 years ago, and these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they happened 500 years ago. So Krishna, when he was here on this earth 5,000 years ago, he was thinking that for a long time I didn't give an explanation to the people of this world how to accomplish the highest form of bhakti, the pure love of Godhead in the conjugal love towards the Lord. And he said that the only way by which he can show people how to accomplish it is if he comes as himself into this world and teaches others how to love God in this intimate relationship. But not only conjugal love, but also all the rasas that can be found actually in Vrindavan. So Vrindavan in the spiritual world, on Krishna Loka, is considered to be the most intimate place of the Lord's pastimes, which is very difficult to reach. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made it very easy for us to reach just by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So this is how he teaches the world, and also his incarnations in a way follow his example, because they're also the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We said Lord Nityananda is considered to be a Lord Balaram, who is a second expansion of Lord Krishna, and now Advaita Acharya, who is an incarnation of Mahavishnu himself. He also teaches by example, following the example of Krishna himself. And therefore Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that since he has no other occupation than to teach devotional service, His name is Advaita Acharya. He is the spiritual master of all devotees and is the most revered personality in the world. By a combination of these two names, his name is Advaita Acharya. Since he is a limb or part of the lotus-eyed Supreme Lord, he also bears the name Kamalaksha. His associates have the same bodily feature as the Lord. They all have 4 arms and are dressed in yellow garments like Narayana. Shri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of the Supreme Lord. His truths, names, and attributes are all wonderful. He worshipped Krishna with tulasi leaves and water of Ganges and called for him in a loud voice. Thus Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth accompanied by his personal associates. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to come into this material world, and whenever he wants to incarnate, even in other ages, he always prepares the ground for his descent by sending his devotees who will take up the roles of his seniors. So one of these seniors is also Advaita Acharya. So he comes before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, and then he's very much saddened by the fact that he cannot see other people in the world, especially in the place where he lives. He doesn't see that they are performing bhakti, and he sees that they are going into a wrong direction. So therefore he becomes compassionate towards them and he wants to deliver them. So therefore he thinks that the only person who can deliver the fallen souls in this age is only the Supreme Lord, who, if he comes personally by himself, then he can save all these people from going on the wrong path. So therefore he finds this verse in the scriptures. I forgot which scriptures, but he finds the verse in the scriptures which says that, where the Lord says that if one offers him a tulasi leaf and a little bit of water, then he considers himself to be sold to this devotee who gives him this. So he took this verse as true, Advaita Acharya, as he considered that if I do that, then the Lord will be obliged to fulfill any desire I would like to have. So therefore he worshipped him, the Lord, in the form of Shalagram Shila. He offered him a tulasi leaf and the water of Ganges and requested the Lord to descend to propagate the cult of Bhakti in this age of Kali and to deliver the world from all sinful reactions. So it is through him, Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement, and through him that he delivered the world. The glory and attributes of Advaita Acharya are unlimited. How can an insignificant living entity fathom them? Shri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of Lord Chaitanya. Another limb of the Lord is Nityananda Prabhu. The devotees headed by Srivas and are his smaller limbs. They are like his hands, face and eyes, and his disc and other weapons. With all of them, Lord Chaitanya performs his pastimes, and with them he spreads his mission. So we know from the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's the 4th chapter, where it is described why the Lord descends into this world, what is the reason. So he says that he descends to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants and to establish the principles of religion. So we can see that in all the incarnations of the Lord, when he comes, and even as himself, as Krishna, when he comes, he always comes to fulfill all those purposes. So the first one is to deliver the pious, which actually means to fulfill the desires of his devotees who want to see him and who want to develop a certain relationship with him. So that's one purpose. The other purpose is to annihilate the miscreants. So we can see that usually there are some demons which are killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is no killing in that sense. Like, for instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Kurukshetra war is mentioned, and the whole Mahabharata is centered around the Kurukshetra war, by which the miscreants were annihilated because they were a burden to the earth, and earth anyway prayed to Lord Brahma and the demigods to help her so that she can that they can help her, and that they can pray to the Lord that this burden of sins that she was carrying because of these demoniac people can be eliminated from her back. So usually when the Lord comes, he removes this sinful burden of the place where he comes. But when he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he doesn't kill no one or uses any weapons, but he has weapons. And who are his weapons? His associates, because through his associates, he's propagating the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And just the holy name itself is so powerful that it can change the hearts of even the most demoniac people on this planet. And it can eliminate their demoniac propensities. So in this way, the Lord uses his weapons in this age of Kali by delivering everyone and by being merciful to everyone. So to continue with the verses of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, thinking that he, Sri Advaita Acharya, is a disciple of Srimad Devendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya obeys him, respecting him as the spiritual master. So this is quite interesting, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will try to explain what this verse actually means. So we have hierarchy in the world. We know what it means. There is one person who is on the topmost position, and all the others are beneath him. So in the similar sense, we can say that there is also hierarchy in the spiritual world, because on the top position, not in front of everyone, but above everyone, there is Lord Shri Krishna. So everyone serves him. But it is more pleasurable to the Lord to also have his seniors. And that's also how he manifests his pastimes, and he relishes this kind of relationships. So therefore, he also has seniors in Vrindavan, for instance. His parents, his older brother Balaram is also considered to be a senior. So these are all personalities to whom the Lord has to offer respect, to whom the Lord has to listen to. So it is apparently they're senior to him and they are above him, but actually they are not. In this role of being seniors, they're actually just serving the Lord because they want to serve him, because this kind of relationship gives pleasure to the Lord. So that's quite beautiful, and that's actually how devotees relish their relationship with the Lord. So it is explained how Srimad Devendra Puri is one of the acharyas in disciplic succession from Madhvacharya. Madhavendra Puri had two principal disciples, Ishvara Puri and Sri Advaita Prabhu. And we know from the pastimes of Chaitanya Charitamrita that Ishvara Puri was actually a spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So since the god brother of Ishvara Puri was Advaita Acharya, in the society, and especially in the spiritual society, he was regarded also as a spiritual master to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because usually we respect the god brothers of our spiritual master in the same sense as the spiritual master. So this seniority, you can see this seniority in this relationship, and it is explained why he's considered to be a senior. To maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. So even though he's the source of everything, the primeval cause of everything, and everything rests in him, and he's, the top boss, he still offers his respects and plays the role of a servant to the godbrother of his spiritual master. And he does this to show an example and to uplift the principle of religion and to teach the society how they should act. So that's the whole purpose of why he acts this way. So Sri Advaita Acharya, however, even though he's senior to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offers his respect to Advaita Acharya, he considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, you are all servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in one way, we have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is teaching by example how to act in front of a senior and how to behave towards a senior, but also we have Advaita Acharya who, even though in a social context is senior to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he knows that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also teaches us that we are all servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, regardless of the position that we carry. So the conception of servitude to Shri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. So this is the exalted position of the servant of the Lord. By serving the Lord, they experience so much joy. They experience joy and pleasure that is even higher than the joy and pleasure that is experienced by the Lord himself. So Advaita Acharya, he says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted in this emotion of servitude. The most beloved goddess of fortune resides on the chest of Sri Krishna, yet she too, earnestly praying, begs for the joy of service at his feet. All the associates of Lord Krishna, such as Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Shuka, and Sanatana Kumar, are very pleased in the sentiment of servitude. Shri Nityananda, the wandering mendicant, is the farmost of all associates of Lord Chaitanya. He becomes mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are just the example that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives to point out what is the joy of service actually. Service is joy, especially if it's performed towards the Lord. And then he continues, Srivas, Haridas, Ramadas, Gadadhar, Murari, Mukunda, Chandrasekhara, and Vakrishwara are all glorious and are all learned scholars, but the sentiment of servitude to Lord Chaitanya makes them mad in ecstasy. Thus they dance, sing, and laugh like madmen, and they instruct everyone, just be loving servants of Lord Chaitanya. Shri Advaita Acharya thinks, Lord Chaitanya considers me his spiritual master, yes, yet I feel myself to be only his servants. Love for Krishna has this one unique effect. It imbues superiors, equal and inferiors with the spirit of service to Lord Krishna. So whatever the position is of the soul in the relationship with Krishna, all of them have this spirit of service to Lord Krishna, even if the personality we're talking about is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, that incarnation wants to be in the spirits of service towards Krishna, regardless of his position. So for evidence, please listen to the examples described in the revealed scriptures, which are corroborated by the realization of great souls. So as we mentioned many times, that whenever Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami talks about anything, he always quotes various verses from the scriptures, and he also says that all of this is confirmed by the scriptures and also by the realization of great souls, because they are pure devotees and they have established their relationship with Krishna, and they have Paramatma in their heart, which acts like a TV for them to see actually the absolute truth as it is, in the way the absolute truth wants them to see. But that's another topic, how that is possible. But that's why he emphasizes this so much. So, although no one is more respected elder for Krishna than Nanda Maharaj in Vraja, who is a father of Krishna, who is in transcendental paternal love, he has no knowledge that his son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, ecstatic love makes him want to speak of others, to feel himself to be a servant of Lord Krishna. So, we know that in Vrindavan, all the residents of Vrindavan who are in the relationship with Lord Krishna, they don't see him as God. They don't know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's for them just their wonderful friend, their wonderful son, their wonderful lover, or their wonderful master. So nobody sees him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, even though they don't see him as God, they all want to serve him, because the service comes from love that they have towards him. So Nanda Maharaj, he too prays for attachment and devotion to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, as the words from his own mouth give evidence. So this is where he says it. He says to Uddhava in one pastime, "My dear Uddhava, please hear me. In truth, Krishna is my son, but even if you think that he is God, I would still bear towards him my own feelings for my son. May my mind be attached to your Lord Krishna." So this attachment and this need for service towards the Lord only comes from love of Nanda Maharaj. So even though he doesn't know that he's God, just love forces him to serve, because that gives him joy. And then he says, "May our minds be attached to the lotus feet of your Lord Krishna. May our tongues chant his holy names, and may our bodies lie prostrate before him. Wherever we wander in the material universe under the influence of karma, by the will of the Lord, may our auspicious activities cause our attraction to Lord Krishna to increase. Lord Krishna's friends in Vrindavan, headed by Sridham, have pure fraternal affection for Lord Krishna and have no idea of his opulences. So they see Krishna as their friend, as one of them. They see themselves as equal to Krishna. So therefore, because without that, there wouldn't be this relaxed relationship of friendship between them. And although they fight with him and climb upon his shoulders, they worship his lotus feet in the spirit of servitude. Some of the friends of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, massage his feet, and others whose sinful reactions had been destroyed fanned him with hand-held fans. Even the beloved girlfriends of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, the gopis, the dust of whose feet was desired by Sri Uddhava, and who are more dear to Krishna than anyone else, regard themselves as Krishna's maidservants. And this is the proof that they do that. They say, "O Lord, remover of the afflictions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, O hero of all women, O Lord who destroys the pride of your devotees by your sweet gentle smile, O friend, we are your maidservants. Please fulfill our desires and show us your attractive lotus face. O Uddhava, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs and his friends, the cowherd boys? O great soul, does he ever talk about us, his maidservants, when we will lay on our heads his guru-scented hand? What to speak of the other gopis, even Shri Radhika, who in every respect is the most elevated of them all, and who has bound Shri Krishna forever by her loving attributes, serves his feet as his maidservant." So she is the one who actually by her love controls Krishna. But still, the highest joy that she ever experiences is when she serves Lord Krishna. "O my Lord, O my husband, O most dearly beloved, O mighty armed Lord, where are you? Where are you? O my friend, reveal yourself to your maidservant, who is very much aggrieved by your absence." In Dwarkadam, all the queens headed by Rukmini also consider themselves maidservants of Lord Krishna. They say, actually Queen Rukmini says, "When Jarasandha and the other kings, bows and arrows upraised, stood ready to deliver me in charity to Shishupal, he forcibly took me from their midst, as a lion takes its share of goats and sheep. The dust of his lotus feet is therefore the crown of unconquerable soldiers. May those lotus feet, which are the shelter of the goddess of fortune, be the object of my worship." So this is like these scriptures, the quotes from the scriptures, show us what is the intention of all these devotees. Their intention is that they just want to worship his lotus feet, they just want to serve him. And then he says, what to speak of others? Even Lord Baladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of emotions like pure friendship and paternal love. He also considers himself a servant of Lord Krishna. Indeed, who is there who does not have this conception of being a servant of Lord Krishna? He who is Shesha, Shankarshan, with his thousands of mouths, serves Sri Krishna by assuming 10 forms. Rudra, who is an expansion of Sadashiva and who appears in unlimited universes, is also a Guna avatar and is the ornament of all the demigods in the endless universes. he also desires only to be the servant of Lord Krishna. Sri Sadashiva always says, I am a servant of Lord Krishna. Intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna, he becomes overwhelmed and incessantly dances without clothing and sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. All the emotions, whether those of father, mother, teacher or friend, are full of sentiments of servitude. That is the nature of love of Krishna. So, prema, what we want to accomplish, this love towards God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually love in action. That's what Srila Prabhupada was always saying, that if we love someone, then we act towards him in a certain loving way, usually to serve him. And therefore, he would always say, like, this conception of being a servant, everyone has actually a negative conception of it, because usually when we talk about servants, we talk about people who are subdued or who are maybe exploited in a certain way. But that is not so. Srila Prabhupada explains how, even though we don't consider maybe ourselves as servants, but we serve every day. We serve members of our families, we serve our friends, we serve our husbands or our wives, we serve the society in a certain way, because, certain emotions that we have towards those people push us to act in a certain way, and especially if we love them and then we serve them in a loving way. So in a similar way, we also serve the Lord. And the highest perfection actually of all the activities that a living entity can perform in this life is if he serves the Lord with love in devotional service. So that's the perfection of life, and that is something that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates came to show us here in this world. And for us to understand this, we need to get purified by chanting of the holy names of the Lord, and then realize that actually the highest service that we can perform is in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, because the holy name of the Lord is in this form of Maha Mantra, is actually an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this age. In this age, he came in the form of the sound, and as he is in the form of the sound, we serve him by chanting. So chanting his names is the greatest servant, and it will enable us, this sound incarnation and this sound purification will enable us to understand who we are, who is the Lord, and what is our relationship with him. So everything is contained in the holy name of the Lord, and that is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us. And because we're so fallen, he gave us the most easiest method. The only obstacle in chanting of the holy names for us is actually the offenses that we can make by chanting. But if one day we overcome these offenses, and if when one day we chant in a pure way, then everything will be revealed to us, because the holy name of Lord Krishna is not different from him, and therefore since Krishna is everything is in the holy name. So that's quite beautiful, and hopefully we will understand that one day. So to continue with the verses that are spoken by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So Lord Krishna, the one master and the Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Indeed, everyone is but a servant of his servants. That same Lord Krishna has descended as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, therefore, is his servant. Some accept him, whereas others do not, yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. So this is the perfection of life, to be that. So saying this, Advaita Prabhu dances and loudly sings. Then at next moment, he quietly sits down. The source of the sentiments of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansions who follow him are all influenced by that ecstasy. Lord Sankarshan, who is one of his incarnations, always considers himself as a devotee. So all these incarnations that are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam from the incarnations of the Lord as Lord Balaram, or Varahadev, or Matsya, or Kurma, or Lord Narasimhadev, or Purusha avatars who are responsible for the creation of this material world. They always consider themselves as devotees of the Lord. Actually, that's their favorite position in which they want to be. Another of his incarnations, for example, Lakshman, who is an incarnation of Balaram, and who is very beautiful and opulent, he always serves Lord Rama, who is also an incarnation of the Lord. The Vishnu who lies on the causal ocean is an incarnation of the Lord Sankarshan, and accordingly the emotion of being a devotee is always present in his heart. Advaita Acharya is a separate expansion of him. He always engages in devotional service with his thoughts, words, and action. By his words he declares, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Thus with his mind he always thinks, I am his devotee. With his body he worshipped the Lord by offering Ganges water and tulasi leaves, and by preaching devotional service he delivered the entire universe. Shesha Shankarshana, who holds all the planets on his heads, expands himself in different bodies to render service to Lord Krishna. These are all incarnations of Lord Krishna, yet we always find that they act as devotees. The scriptures call them incarnations as devotees, bhakta avatars. The position of being such an incarnation is above all others. So it's better to be a bhakta avatar than, I don't know, some Purusha avatar. That's what it's written here. So Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and all others are his parts or partial incarnations. We find that the whole and the part behave as superior and inferior. The source of all incarnations has the emotions of a superior when he considers himself the master, and he has the emotions of an inferior when he considers himself as a devotee. So therefore, the incarnation, when they consider themselves as devotees of the Lord, they automatically accept the inferior position, which they actually hold, because Lord Krishna is the original cause of everything and the source of all these incarnations. And they want to be in this inferior position, and they want to serve Krishna because that gives them the highest ecstasy. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. So some people in this world, they want to be like God, but actually that's the inferior position. And the superior position of that is to be a devotee of the Lord, because devotees of the Lord are more dear to Krishna than he is to himself. So in that sense, it is a superior position. And therefore he says in Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a lovely verse, where he says that, Lord Krishna says that the devotees are my heart, and I am the heart of my devotees. My devotees do not know anyone but me. Similarly, I do not know anyone but my devotees. So this is the intimate relationship between the Lord and his devotees. And that's why everyone wants to have this relationship with Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. O Uddhava, neither Brahma nor Shankara, nor Sankarshan, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is dear to me as you. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. This conclusion of the revealed scriptures is also the realization of experienced devotees. Fools and rascals, however, cannot understand the opulences of devotional emotions. So basically, if we want to cultivate devotional emotions towards the Lord, we will understand the opulences of them. Because, when we talk about someone who is powerful, who is very rich, we see in this personality, and especially in incarnations of the Lord, or some personalities which are authorized by the Lord, or which are empowered by the Lord, we see certain opulences in them because of their greatness, because of their position, and so on. But all those opulences are inferior to the opulence of devotional emotions towards the Lord, which come from serving the Lord. So that's the greatest opulence. And so we can say that the richest personality in the whole world is actually Radharani, because she has the most strongest and the highest emotions towards Krishna, and therefore she has the biggest opulence in her heart than anyone else, as the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. So Baladev, Lakshman, Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Shesha, and Lord Sankarshan taste the nectarian mellows of transcendental bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and servants. They are all mad with that happiness, and they know nothing else. And so I was also thinking, like, if all these great personalities which are described as incarnations of the Lord, or family members of the Lord, if all of them who are so great and who have such beautiful qualities, all of them, they're not puffed up by it, but they want to be servants, then why should not we be inspired also to become, to become servants and to come into this mood of servitude towards the Lord and everyone else. So then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that what to speak of others than all of this that I have now mentioned. Even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of the devotee. So therefore Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee and descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee. So he took the position of Srimati Radharani, and we talked about it in, I think it was chapter 2 and 3 of Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. And therefore, this was all explained. All the incarnations are entitled to the emotions of devotees. There is no higher bliss than that. The original Bhakta Avatara is Sankarshan. Sri Advaita is counted among such incarnations. The glories of Sri Advaita Acharya are boundless, for his sincere vibrations brought about Lord Chaitanya's descent upon this earth. He liberated the universe by preaching Sankirtan. Thus the people of the world received the treasure of love of Godhead through the mercy of Sri Advaita. Who can describe the unlimited glories of Advaita Acharya? I write here as much as I have known from great authorities. I offer my obeisances 10 million times to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. Please do not take offense at this. Your glories are the fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Speaking of its measure is a great offense indeed. All glories to Sri Advaita Acharya, all glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the superior Lord Nityananda. Thus in 2 verses I have described the truth concerning Advaita Acharya. Now, devotees, please hear about the 5 truths, which are called Panchatattva. And then he says, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas Kaviraj, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So this is how Chaitanya Charitamrita and the author Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami have explained the glories of Advaita Acharya. They explained who he is, and we said that he is an incarnation of Mahavishnu, and how he descended into this world as an incarnation so he can taste the emotions of a devotee. And therefore, in detail, it was explained how all the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they want to taste these emotions of a devotee, and therefore they want to be always in the role of a servitor of Lord Krishna. And so all these great personalities are enlisted, and all of them have the same goal, and all of the associates of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, they also, even though they don't know that Lord Krishna is God, they still want to serve him. So this is also like an indication to us and a motivation for us to become servants, because even the greatest personality enjoy this joy of serving the Lord. So in that sense, the glories of Advaita Acharya are described, and through him he propagated the religious principles of this age, and that is the performance of devotional service. And through him and because of him, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended into this material world. So this is where we're going to stop. We finished chapter 6 in just one session, so that's a record because that never happened before. So next Wednesday, we are going to talk about Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, which is actually referring to Panchatattva. So Panchatattva consists of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Srinivas, and Gadadhar. And all of these personalities actually represent the Lord himself. He's present in 5 features, and all of these features present Krishna in a way. So all of this will be explained, and probably not in one session. It will be maybe 3-4 sessions where we will explain this. Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask. And I wish you a nice evening. Haribol.